Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43 and tonight we are back in the Champagne. That's something you haven't heard in a long time. So, keeping in theme with what we've been going with lately, I've been trying to get through some of the ships that you guys have been requesting down in the comments below, and one of them has been the Champagne. So, here we are. Now, why don't I play the Champagne more than I do? Well, it's pretty straightforward and simple. It's got no hit points, it is no armor, and it is an absolute troll of a ship. It has ridiculous potential to remove anybody that you're looking at a given moment, or make you hate life all at the same time. It's crazy. What do I mean? What is the goods, what is the bads about the Champagne? Like I said, no hit points, no armor. It is a true glass cannon. It doesn't get any more glass cannon-y than the Champagne when it comes to battleships, okay? Period. End of story. But what you do get is a gun platform that fires 6 railguns and has a decent reload. And they've now buffed it to have a reload booster too, because reasons. Now, what do I mean by railguns? Does this thing actually fire railguns? No. But it has a high velocity French magic bullet, fires 6 of them, and has easily the most accurate battleship in the game, bar none. Sometimes. Most of the time. The shells, when they come out of this, can still troll you. It's still French. It still gives you those ridiculously bad groupings at times. But look at this accuracy and tell me another battleship that does that. I don't know what the exacts are, okay? I'm not somebody who goes and looks up all the stats. Obviously, that was terrible. We ended up hitting... That was auto-aim shot at the Amagi behind an island, so it is what it is. Not expecting to get a lot out of that anyway. But, what I'm saying is... This thing is still French. It will still throw that horrific grouping at you occasionally, where it just goes everywhere but where you actually want it. The good news is, most of the time, it's horizontal dispersion. Okay? You don't get a lot of vertical dispersion, okay, with this particular ship. Meaning that if people are dumb enough to go broadside, more often than not, you're going to land most of the 6 shells that you fire downrange. The problem is, it's still only 6 shells. Now, the other thing that you got to look forward to with this ship is that one of 2 things is going to happen when you do hit the broadside of a target. Either you are going to decimate said target, or you are going to overpin said target and wish that you were in any other ship. Because I'm telling you, the amount of overpins that you think you get in battleships, you guys have no idea until you play the Champagne here. Like, the overpins are real with this ship. Why is that? Why does this ship overpin so much? Simple. It does not lose penetration. At all. I don't know what the exact stats are. Again, I'm sure somebody out there, Durka or some of these guys that go out and get all the fancy stats from PC or get with the developers and get the inside scoop on everything. I don't have the time to do that. Well, I probably do, but I'm not going to because I'm not that worried about it. I shoot at things and things go boom. That's the extent, right? But anyway, this thing does not lose the penetration over range like you do on a lot of other ships. Okay? It's the same argument a lot of people make when they shoot American guns at, say, battleships at range. They're like, oh, of course I don't citadel it. It's broadside Yama. Why wouldn't I citadel it? I've never citadeled anything beyond 15 kilometers with an American battleship. Bullshit, first of all. Second of all, like, you just don't know what you're doing, clearly. But one of the downsides is that over distance, you do lose some of that penetration. You're not going to be able to penetrate all the way to the citadel every time on every ship, especially if you're shooting at a broadside of a battleship because you're going through the thickest part of the armor, right? So, the shells slow down over range, and they don't penetrate as deeply. Now, you'll notice that everybody on my team came over here, with the exception of a couple of cruisers. We also know that the one destroyer that they have in the entire lobby came to this side of the map. So, what am I doing, folks? Counter-rotating. I know I've talked about this multiple times. Why do we counter-rotate, folks? Why do we push the direction away from the rest of our team? Jimmy in the back? Oh, to set up crossfires? You're a genius, Jimmy! You're a genius! I knew! You've been watching for a long time. I could feel it. You're a genius to set up crossfires. Why? Because battleships are incredibly ineffective if they're all in the same location. Just gonna throw that out there. Let me reiterate. Battleships are incredibly ineffective if they're all in the same location. Why is that? Because all the enemy has to do is bow tank you, and unless you overmatch them, they reduce your overall impact on the battle significantly. So how do we negate that? We counter-rotate. We go where the rest of the battleships aren't. Why? Because then we get the juicy broadsides. The enemy has to make the choice. Whether they want to give me a broadside, or the rest of them a broadside. And in doing so, somebody is getting a crossfire. It's that simple. That's all it takes. Now this match is actually going to be incredibly fun. I know it's been pretty lackluster up to this point, but trust me, it gets better. Just gotta hang in there. We're just trying to explain what's going on around the map. So, the enemy has pushed into Charlie. We don't have any spotting because our destroyer, the one destroyer that we did have, decided to go all the way to the other side of the map instead of actually trying to spot anything. He was sitting behind an island, shooting his guns at battleships rather than actually trying to do anything. He did end up torping the turrets, so at least we'll give him credit for that. And now he has moved into the beta cap and grabbed the Bravo cap. Good lord. Now here is a prime example of what I'm talking about when I say Overpen City. We have a broadside Suja who is turning away, and in this case, you would expect me to be able to absolutely remove this man. But we're only sending 6 rounds down range, and we do get 2 full pins, but of course we gotta leave him with just enough for somebody else to kill. Fortunately, the Drake finishes him off pretty quickly. Now the Tulsa comes out. Now, I am not the most experienced with the Champagne. This is a ship that is very, very unique. You need to play this ship a lot in order to get used to the ballistics of the ship. That being said, we triple overpinned Tulsa's broadside. That Tulsa is the luckiest motherfucker on the planet. Why is that? Because he's in an American heavy cruiser, and he just got away with getting shot with absolute railguns. Something that this Mines isn't going to get so lucky with. Wait for it. Bonk. Yeah, double Citadel. Those are the things that you got to watch for. Oh, you thought that was a fluke? Okay, fine. Minnesota, would you like to demonstrate what happens when a battleship, even at 17 kilometers, is dumb enough to give a Champagne a full broadside? Go ahead. You're a thick one. You've got all the belt armor in the world. Look at the torpedo protection. Wait for it. Do we need another demonstration? Yeah, this is not a good idea. But this is the only situation that this Champagne excels in. It is not a brawler. It is not a mid-range battleship. It is a sniping battleship. It is a crossfire cannon. You do not want this thing to be up close and personal. A, because you cannot get your guns on target without giving up too much broadside and getting yourself sent back to port. And B, we're going to try to bail out our Iowa here who's getting rushed by this Mines. And looks beautiful. Oh, we hit him with 1 shell and it was a Citadel. If we could have hit more than 1 shell, he'd be dead right now, and we'd save that Iowa the trouble of getting yeeted by this Mines. Unfortunately, it was not meant to be. Mines gets the torp out of him and shoot him to finish him off. Now, as the Mines comes out of his engagement with the Iowa, he's still not paying attention, so we're going to go ahead and punch him again. Now, we didn't lead him enough here. But one of the things that I do get a lot out of this ship is that I tend to not lead enough, which sounds stupid because these are railguns, okay? It's the problem with trying to lead these guys. I'm going to make a huge mistake in a moment, by the way. I should have not shot the Mines here. I should have shot the main, because I go behind the island and I was the one spotting the main, and I used my freaking reload booster like an absolute imbecile. So what do? I see where my friendly hit the main who was sitting there, and I aim at that and hope for the best. And blind fire? I still managed to hit him. Unfortunately, he was angled and I didn't get anything out of it. We got one overpin for basically 1,300 damage. But the Tulsa comes around the corner, finishes off our Rochester, and suddenly it is a 2v3. Now, look at the points, folks. Both teams are identical, okay? So what comes down to, or who's going to win this match comes down to who does the right thing at the right time. Obviously, I know there's a Massachusetts and a Maine here. I'm not going to sail out and get myself yeeted by them, right? So instead, I turn away, I angle, I avoid taking huge hits from those guys while I continue to try to focus the Tulsa. Now, the one thing that this thing is very good at is shooting at cruisers at longer ranges because these are very fast shells. So you don't have to lead the cruisers as much, and it's much harder for them to dodge. Unfortunately, we only hit 2 shells there, but that's going to cause that guy to change what he's doing. He's not going to be able to engage us anymore, which allows us to go dark. Now, we are running a full accuracy, not a full range build, but a range build that's beyond 20 kilometers because, again, this thing excels at sniping. It is not a brawler. It is not a mid-range to close-range ship. So anything 17 kilometers and beyond is where you truly want to be. Now here we're able to dodge and get under most of these shells from the Massachusetts. We did get a shot over the island, but unfortunately I think he turns away and gets away with it for now. We get another shot out there, and I am expecting the Tulsa to shoot at me here, and potentially the Maine that we know is here. So as we get the shot over the island, this time we do actually hit the Massachusetts and get a Citadel, and that gives us our high cal with 155,000 damage. But look at the way that these guys are coming in. Look at my Battleship buddy that's over there. These guys are basically identical health. Our Battleship actually takes a massive hit here in the Pommern, and he ends up trading with this enemy Massachusetts. So I gotta give the Pommern a little bit of credit. If you're gonna die, at least take somebody with you so that your points do not affect the battle, right? If he'd have died and not killed the Massachusetts, then suddenly I'm down on points and would have to win by killing somebody, right? And there's no guarantee that I'm going to be able to do that because I'm up against Tier 8 Battleship that has ridiculous armor if used properly and a lot more guns than I got. So it's not an ideal scenario. Plus, he has a lot more hit points than me, right? Even if I was full health, which I mostly am, and I have 2 heals, he still has way more hit points than I do. Generally, I think he has somewhere in the 78 to 79,000 hit point range, maybe a little bit more than that. Maybe it's like 80 something. But anyway, we get a shot on the Maine over the top of the island here, hoping for the best. Again, he gets a full broadside away at us, but look at what he's doing. He's moving for, and now here's where I don't lead enough. I was expecting to hit this Tulsa. He actually turns away just enough, and all these shells fall short. Was it a bug? No. If you look at the minimap, he turned away. So when I shot at him, I was aimed at one point, he turns away. Those shells would have probably killed him had he not turned away slightly. So it's not an aiming bug there. It is simply that the guy turned away. A lot of people will call it an aiming bug, saying that the shells fall short all the time, and most of the time it's not the case. There are instances where you fire at somebody that you should absolutely hit, and all the shells will drop short. RNG is an absolute nightmare for that sometimes. But more often than not, it's usually because somebody either changes course or you aimed somewhere where you thought you were going to hit them and you didn't pay attention to the direction of travel and, you know, that sort of thing. So they end up... But Tulsa makes a huge mistake here. I can overmatch him. And so going bow into somebody who has accuracy like this, not a good idea. But you can see how quickly this thing can absolutely turn the tide of battle. But notice that I'm already in the cap. I've been using my engine boost to get into a position where I get into the cap. So now not only did I kill the Tulsa, but I've been in the cap, so I'm gaining points because we had the cap advantage, or at least we did until he got into the Bravo cap. We had the cap advantage, which allowed us to get ahead in the points. Now here, I see his spotter plane. He's trying to get me spotted. He wants to shoot me over the island, but I turn away. Why is that? Once again, this is not a brawling battleship. This is not a ship that you want to be up close and personal with, and it darn sure isn't a ship that I feel like I want to go toe-to-toe with the Maine at close range in. Why? At best, I take a huge amount of damage, and at worst, I get depth struck very quickly. It's that simple. So I grab the cap, giving us the cap lead once again, and then I just continue moving. There's no reason for me to engage this Maine here. None. We have the points lead. All we gotta do is survive and we win the match. Why is this such a difficult concept for some people to figure out? It's really not. I talk about it all the time. Everybody talks about it all the time. You don't have to win harder, folks. You just gotta win. There's nothing in the thing that says you have to do 300,000 damage every game. Sometimes, you gotta be smart enough to disengage and understand when you're outmatched. So you just move away. Now, if he comes around the corner, I'm angled away. I've got my guns ready. If he's able to get around the corner in time, guess what? I'm going to get a nasty salvo against him before he can actually hit me, and the game's going to end and I still win. So, play smart, folks. But this has been the Champagne. Pretty solid example of why this ship can be so nasty. 169,000 damage isn't the highest damage in the world, but 3,300 base XP, top of the leaderboard, clutching the game against top tier opponents. Like, we're literally up against tier 8s that are nasty, and yet we did what we had to do. It's not always the most glamorous job in the world, but you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes, folks. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, and if you like what I'm doing, punch the like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video. Have a great weekend.